want to record?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm almost done over here in Facebook Live.
Okay. Thank you all in the room for being part of our setup.
Okay, setting up your meeting. Oh no. Oops. How come it shows me going live, not, hold on.
Oh,
Go to gallery mode, gallery view.
No, it would
Oh.
as me going live on Facebook.
yeah, so the drop down, when you get in there, you have to choose the page that you're,
Okay, so let me.
I would close out altogether, close out, open up Facebook, go through this whole.
All right, hold on. I'm closing it out. Oops. Oops. And I don't want this.
It says live on Facebook.
Does it?
It does, but it's not on the African
Yeah,
American page.
it's on your page, I think.
Yeah, it's on my page. Dang it. How do I get out of it?
Upper left of this screen that you're on. Let's stop that stream. Go to the Facebook thing up at the top and stop that stream.
Oh, in Zoom?
In Zoom, yeah. Stop that first.
Okay, so how do I upper left?
Yeah, it says Facebook up there. Stop stream.
I don't. Oh, yes. Stop live stream. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties.
I think we should start bringing people in. Natalie, can you do this in the
Yes.
background?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can do it.
All right, I'm gonna go video less and press admit all. Everyone ready? Here we go.
Okay.
I'm gonna disable the waiting room. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for spending your morning with us. This is a great time for you to adjust your audio levels. We'll get started here real soon. Thank you. Again, good morning. This is a good time to adjust your audio levels. Thank you for joining us on the last week of the African American Conference on Disabilities.
Good morning, everyone. It is now 10:03 a.m. in Arizona, and we're ready to get started here. My name is Nicholas Blum. I work at the Institute for Human Development at Northern Arizona University, coming today from Flagstaff, Arizona. And I'm just going to take a minute to go over some general housekeeping for accessing this session today. And then I'll pass it over to Natalie, who will introduce our speaker today. So I pasted some information in the chat And after I finish verbally explaining, I'm going to repaste everything into the chat for people that have showed up a little bit later. The first thing to note is that there's captioning available in today's session. So if you're in Zoom, there should be a live transcript CC button at the bottom of your screen. You may have to click that and then click show subtitle or show full transcript. Those are both options in Zoom. We also have captions on an external captioning link that I posted in the chat. That's if you prefer to see your captions on a separate window. The next thing to note is we have ASL interpreters working today. I posted in the chat some instructions, but I'll go over that. So we're going to try and spotlight the ASL interpreters today. So they'll show up on the main screen for everyone as we go. But if there are issues with that, I invite people to scroll their mouse to the top right-hand corner of the Zoom screen. There's a view button. If you click view, there's lots of view options. So I encourage you to click around and find what works for you. You can also find the ASL interpreters in the participant list. They should be at the top. They have ASL at the beginning of their names, their co-hosts. You should be able to click their names and pin their videos as well. Let's see, ASL. We're going to be showing slides during this presentation. When the slides go up and the slides come down, you might find your view changes by default in Zoom. So you might have to repick your view when the slides go up and down. Lastly, we're live streaming to Facebook right now as a kind of overflow room for the conference. And if you're watching on Facebook, you might have to activate captions there by clicking the gear icon in the bottom of the video and then turning captions on. John will post the external captioning link on Facebook as well. I think that's the bulk of what I wanted to share with you this morning. I'm excited for this last week of the conference. Just a reminder, with all this captioning and ASL interpreting, speaking slow is important, and please speak up in the chat if it's going too fast for you or understanding. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it over. We're going to monitor the chat for technical questions, so if you have them. And I'm going to pass it over to Natalie Luna Rose, who's going to introduce our speaker today. Natalie.
Thanks, Nick and John. Appreciate it. So good morning, everybody. I'm Natalie Luna Rose. I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager for the Arizona Center for Disability Law. This is our last week of the African American Conference on Disabilities. And if you've been joining us since the beginning, thank you. If this is your first time, welcome. We have had a really great conference this past month, and we're really excited for our last week and also for our speaker today. Before we get to our speaker, I'm going to thank our sponsors that have been generous to this conference. The Arizona Center for African American Resources, ASCAR, Valley Toyota Dealers, Arizona Developmental Disabilities Planning Council, Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Sonoran USAID, Institute for Human Development at NAU, Arizona Statewide Independent Living Council, Diverse Ability Incorporated, Marks the Spot, Uniques, Sun Valley, the Valley of the Sun United Way, and the Arizona Center for Disability Law. And without their support, I'm not sure how we would have been able to pull off the conference. And also wanted to give a big shout out to our interpreters and our CART person today. You guys, we also could not be doing this without you. So thank you so much. And I'm going to introduce Brittany Chipley. She is the Arizona ABLE Executive Director with the Arizona Department of Economic Security. And she's here today to talk about this program and what it could mean for you and your families. So Brittany, I'm handing it over to you.
Thanks, Natalie. I appreciate it. So like Natalie said, I'm Brittany Chipley. I'm the Executive Director for AZ ABLE, also known as Arizona ABLE. It is functioned under the Arizona Department of Economic Security. So I just want to let you guys know, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming and listening about this life-changing program. This program is ABLE is national. So even though I may be talking about Arizona ABLE's program today, most of the things or elements that I'm going to be talking about is universal to all ABLE programs across the country. Right now, I think we came up on 44 programs nationally. That does include Washington, D.C.'s program. And we are also partnered, we are administered under Ohio's Stable program, which is a national program. So even though you may not live in Arizona, you can go to Ohio's Stable program website, which is called ohiostable.com, and you can sign up. They're not only partnered with Arizona, they're partnered with 10 other states across the nation. And even though you may not live in that particular state, it doesn't matter where you live in the US, you can sign up for a stable program by just going to ohiostable.com. So usually what I ask is for people to hold questions until the end of the presentation. However, if you feel like you're gonna forget, you're more than welcome to ask the question. I won't hold it against you because I know sometimes I have a burning question and I may forget myself. So please do whatever you feel is best for you. So I'm gonna cut my camera off and share my screen so we can get started with the presentation. And this is exciting stuff. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear about ABLE accounts and AZ ABLE generally. Hold on one moment. So Arizona's ABLE plan. What exactly is ABLE? So ABLE is an acronym for Achieving a Better Life Experience. It is federal legislation that was passed under the Obama administration in 2014. Governor Ducey actually signed it here into Arizona in the summer of 2016. So what exactly it is? It creates tax advantage investment accounts for individuals with disabilities. So generally I say that it's basically an account for people with disabilities, their family and friends to contribute, and the earnings, and it's tax-free, tax-exempt, and assets in the account do not affect eligibility for federal or Arizona means tested benefit programs like SSI or Medicaid. And if you're not in Arizona, that's any means tested benefits, whether you're Medicaid agency within the state you live in, SSI, SSDI, HUD benefits, if you have a child who has a disability and they're going to college, federal student aid, any state or federal means tested benefits. Assets in the account would not affect eligibility or are protected when those funds are in an ABLE account. Typically, we describe it as a hybrid of 529 college savings accounts, checkings accounts, or special needs trusts. What we mean by hybrid, we're just saying that it's just another tool that allows individuals with disabilities to save money. In my opinion, it is life-changing. It's the best tool because federal and means tested agencies cannot count the money in these accounts as resources. It is protected. What is AZ ABLE? AZ ABLE is Arizona's ABLE plan. It is offered to Arizona residents through a partnership with Ohio's Stable Account Program, which is a national program. Ohio is not only the national program. I want to say there's 4 other states out there that has a national program, which means you don't necessarily have to be a resident of that state to open up an ABLE account with that particular program. It is administered by the Department of Economic Security. We actually coming up on our 3-year anniversary. We launched in March 5th, 2018. Benefits of AZ ABLE. So this is just not benefits of AZ ABLE, but this is benefits of ABLE accounts also. It provides financial independence for people with disabilities. The account is owned by the individual with the disability. So whether you may have a parent or a guardian who is administering an account for the beneficiary, they do not own the account. The account is always going to be in the name of the individual with the disability. It dramatically increases the ability to save. Prior to ABLE legislation, individuals could only save around $2,000 of their own money before risking loss of health care and other benefits. But now they're able to save, I want to say 3 or 4 times more than that. We'll get into some numbers a little bit later on. So the ability to save is dramatic when we look at these numbers. It provides new saving and investment opportunities. And the best thing of all, the earnings on the accounts are tax-free. Who can use AZ ABLE? Accounts are limited to 1 account per person. Once again, that's just not Arizona's ABLE program. That is federal law. So accounts are only limited to 1 account per person. You cannot have an account in Arizona and then also have an account in Tennessee. You cannot do that. For AZ ABLE, you have to be an Arizona resident. But once again, please visit ohiostableaccount.com to see whether or not you qualify, and you can definitely sign up with their national program. Another federal legislation part of ABLE accounts is eligible individuals must have a disability that developed before the age of 26. So that means, let me give you a quick example. You may have a gentleman, let's say that he's 30. He goes to see a doctor, and the doctor basically diagnoses him with a mental illness at the age of 30. But the doctor says, actually, I can prove that you developed this mental illness at the age of 25. That gentleman would be eligible, would meet the first eligibility requirement because he had his disability developed prior to the age of 26. I am happy to say that myself and the ABLE administrators across the nation are working on some federal legislation called the ABLE Age Adjustment Act to increase that age of 26 to 46. And studies have been completed that this will, about 6 million more people will become eligible. And we're hoping that we can get that legislation passed this year. Another main eligibility requirement, so not only do you have to have an onset of disability prior to the age of 26, but you must also meet 1 of 3 criteria. Number 1, you must be eligible to receive SSI or SSDI due to a disability. Or number 2, you have to have a condition listed on Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances conditions. Typically, I tell people to go and just Google SSA's list or Blue Book because there's thousands of conditions listed on there, ranging from cancer to Down syndrome, etc. Or if you do not meet number 1 and number 2, you can definitely self-certify. It's just with self-certification, we're going to ask for a little bit more information. So with self-certification, there must be a diagnosis of a physical or mental impairment that causes marked and severe functional limitations, which once again is listed under SSA's Blue Book. Just Google that and just see whether or not your condition is listed in there. And then when you're signing up for an account, you're going to certify that the condition has lasted or is expected to last for at least a year. You're going to input your physician's name, address, and the date in which you were diagnosed. We do not ask you to send in a written diagnosis, but you must have it on hand just in case we need some clarification or there's some type of issue. And we want to make sure we get all the information that we need to help you open an account for yourself or your loved one. So enrollment, all enrollment is online. I tell people this, all that I have to stress this is online, because I've had people go to Bank of America, Chase, saying, hey, I want to open up an ABLE account, and they're just looking at them like they're crazy, like, a what account? These accounts across the nation, all enrollment is online. They're not, a regular bank is not going to have any idea what you're talking about. For our online enrollment, it is free and it takes approximately 20 minutes. We really do stick with that 20 minutes. We had a young lady with just one finger and she actually signed up for her account in 19 minutes. So it's easy to navigate, it's accessible, is, no language, no, legal jargon where you're going to get confused, you're worried. It's none of that. It's easy and it's primarily in plain language. There is a $50 minimum opening deposit, just like typically any account you open, you have to open up the account with some money. We do give people time to make that deposit, but your account is not going to actually go active until you deposit that $50 minimum. And then enrollment can be done by the individual with a disability who is the beneficiary or an authorized legal representative, an ALR, who is described as a parent or guardian or individual with power of attorney. So to fund your account, contributions can be made various ways. You can do a via electronic funds transfer or check. There is a 15,000 annual limit. So right there, you go from 2,000 limit to a 15,000 annual limit. That 15,000 is tied to, once again, that's federal law, is tied to the federal gift tax law. So that's why there's no taxes on this, because the annual limit falls within guidelines of that federal tax gifting tax law. So you can save contributions. Only can be made up to $15,000 a year in an account. However, if the beneficiary is employed, that individual can contribute, can possibly contribute up to an additional $12,760 of their income. Once again, going over that, you go from 2,000 to 15,000 and possibly over $27,000 a year of their income to their account. Now, the lifetime limit is $501,000. So contributions wise, the most for our accounts, we are on the higher end. What this means is once contributions reach $501,000, then no more contributions can be made. It's not saying that earnings, interest earnings cannot can go over their amount. Of course, you can have an account that's over $501,000 if you have earnings on your account, but contribution-wise, the lifetime limit is $501,000. We are on the higher end. I want to say that we are the second highest in the nation. The lowest I ever seen was about maybe 150,000, 140,000 lifetime limit. That lifetime limit is tied to Ohio's 529 education's savings plan. So all these lifetime limits, depending on what program you sign up, the lifetime limits are going to differ, and it's tied to that particular 529 education savings plan. The system does automatically reject excess contributions, so you don't have to, basically you don't have to worry about that. The system's going to take care of that. You don't have to track your contributions. The system would track your contributions for you. Another nice little feature with our program is we have an e-gift event option, where the system will send out an email to family, friends, say like you have a birthday, Christmas, whatever. And instead of, receiving a tangible gift, you can say, hey, contribute to my ABLE account. And so as money comes in, the system would track contributors, just in case you want to send out a nice little thank you note or reply for an individual who contribute to your account. And I want to stress that anybody contribute to an ABLE account. So investment and saving options. Like most ABLE programs across the nation, we have where people can invest in the market to try to gain some money on their, to build up their account. For our particular program, we have 4 Vanguard mutual funds that range from aggressive to conservative. And then we have the typical 1 FDIC assured savings options, just like a regular savings account, where you're not gaining any interest, you're not losing money or anything like that. And it's principally protected up to $250,000. So how can you spend stable funds? or AZ able funds? Well, withdrawals must be used on qualified disability expenses. And that means anything that relates to your disability. It helps to maintain or improve someone's health, independence, or quality of life. So right here, we just have a few examples: housing and rent, basic living expenses, medical, financial, legal bills, education, transportation, assistive technology, and many others. These are just some typical examples, but it can basically be anything. The IRS has made this very broad. They want people to be able to live their life to the fullest and spend their money however they wish, to make sure they have an independent and quality life. So I can just give you another example that may not be listed here, but it's a great example. I had a gentleman, his son is autistic, and he said, "Hey, Brittany, what if I bought some CDs for my son? Would that be considered a qualified disability expenses?" I was like, well, explain it to me a little bit. He said, "Well, the music calms him. He loves it. He feels free when he listens to his music." I'm like, absolutely. It relates to his disability, and it helps to improve his health, independence, and quality of life. So it's really just anything, a vacation, a plane ticket somewhere. That's transportation. It's very broad, and as long as it's helping that individual live their life to the fullest, then you're going to be okay. So non-qualified expenditures. There are 5 main things that the IRS considers non-qualified expenditures. The first one is basically cash gifts. So if someone just withdraws money from their account and just gift it to someone, they're going to consider, that as a non-qualified expenditure, because you're just gifting money away. You're saving money and gifting away. And this is about saving money and helping people save for, big items, and things like that. So we don't want people just gifting and giving their money away. We don't want people being taken advantage of either. So cash gifts, alcohol, gambling, tobacco, and adult mature entertainment. I'll say those things again: cash gifts, alcohol, gambling, tobacco, and adult mature entertainment. So, I know every once in a while, some of us might want to play the lottery, feeling lucky. You cannot use your ABLE funds for a lottery ticket, going to the casinos. That's a no-no. A glass of wine, that's a no-no. So those are the 5 main non-qualified expenditures. Now, it can possibly affect benefits, so the amount of the expenditure may now be considered a countable resource. And we say not necessarily, because it just depends on what that benefit agency decides. And typically there may be a penalty. So you may pay taxes plus a 10% penalty on the earnest portion of the withdrawal. So typically we just tell people, just don't spend your ABLE funds on those 5 main things. Everything else is pretty much okay, but stay away from those five expenditures. So spending from the account. Withdrawals can be made several ways. You can transfer money to a personal checking or savings. You can have a third-party check issue. You can transfer to a stable card. We'll talk about that on the next slide. And all withdrawals are free, and there are no limits. It's your money. You can spend it, withdraw it however you want to, whenever you want to. There's no limits to that. And AZ ABLE, Department of Economic Security, even if you're not in Arizona, your particular ABLE program will not ask you how withdrawals were spent, but benefit agencies such as like Medicaid, if they're, if they feel like maybe some exploitation is going on, and the IRS can, if they have some concerns, once again, if they feel like there's some exploitation going on, they can ask how that particular or why that particular withdrawal was spent in the way that it was spent. I can attest to you, I haven't seen this happen before. I haven't heard anything. So, and these programs have been going on since, I would say, the first one came into fruition back in 2016, and we haven't had any issues. So Stable Card, the Stable Card is actually a Visa. It has a Visa logo, so you can use the card anywhere Visa is accepted. And it is a loadable debit card. What that means is that you have to log onto your Stable account or AZ Able account website and actually move money from the card, from the account onto the card. So you have to load the card with money. It's not like a typical checking or a banking debit card where what you have in a bank is accessible on your card. That's not the way it works. And that's for protection reasons. We'll talk about that in a minute. So it does not pull from the account. Another nice little feature with these loadable debit cards is that you can view, just like most checking and savings accounts, you can view online spending records, and then also you can notate expenses when you go online and you want to notate why that expense, what that expense was for, etc. You're more than welcome to do that. There's no commingling of funds with other accounts, so Stable Card is only linked to the Stable account or the AZ Able account. Protection safeguards, like I mentioned earlier. Limiting our merchants. So if you have someone who has their debit card and they're going to a liquor store, and the system will recognize it as a liquor or alcohol merchant, and it's going to be declined. Another great feature for protection reasons is there's a no cash access. So if I say I give my son, let's say I load 50, 60 bucks on his card for him to go out and hang out with his friends for the night. They can do a dinner, a movie, or something like that. And I say, okay, I'm doing $50 on your card for tonight. However, they decide to stop by a store, CVS or something. He wants to run in and get some gum. And his friend like, hey, can you give me $20? Can I borrow $20? Can you get some cash back so I can borrow $20? It's going to be declined because there's no cash access. Once again, a protection safeguard. We don't want people possibly being taken advantage of. And then there's no overdraft. So what I put on the card is how much he can spend. That's another nice feature, because it helps people. Not only gives them financial independence, but helps people become fiscally responsible, budgeting, and things like that. Another nice little feature with these cards is that you can get text alerts to help monitor your spending. And if you at a low balance, say I want to be notified, or my son wants to be notified when the balance on his card is at $5 and he needs more money, he can get a notification for that. So SSI considerations. So I like to make this disclaimer because people start thinking about other benefits or means tested benefits, federal, statewide, and I don't want anyone to start thinking about anything else. Just people need to consider this for supplemental security income only. So say like you have an ABLE account. This is once again federal legislation. So this is going to coincide with all ABLE accounts across the nation. So for instance, if I have an ABLE account and I'm also receiving supplemental security income, also known as SSI, I need to consider the following things. First thing I need to consider is once my balance goes over $100,000, it can be counted as a resource. So my SSI is going to be suspended, so it won't be counted as a resource. Not terminated, but suspended. However, once my balance falls below that $100,000 threshold, I can get my SSI back. Of course, it's not going to be automatic. I will have to call SSA. Hey, my SSI, my ABLE account is back under 100,000. Can I start receiving my SSI again? And they will do that. Your account balance will not affect Medicaid benefits or any other benefits, regardless of the amount. This is only pertains to SSI. Another thing I need to consider is when I withdraw money, and if I hold on to that money from one calendar month to the next, then housing expenditures and non-qualified expenditures count as resources. So for example, once again, I have an ABLE account, I'm receiving SSI, and I'm getting ready to pay for a housing expenditure such as my mortgage. So if we're in February, so I'm getting ready to pay for my mortgage March 1st, and I decide to withdraw money within this month of February, but I wait until March 1st to pay for my mortgage, it can be counted as a resource. So typically what we tell people to do, don't withdraw the money. Most people do electronic transfer. You can have a third party check, basically where the money's never in your hand, or just wait until the month. Make sure you withdraw the money and spend the money within the same month that you withdrew the money. So you won't have to worry about that possibly counting as a resource. And then another thing is to consider that even though I'm receiving SSI, my wages are going to still count as income, even if that benefit agency already know likely those wages are going to go to an ABLE account. Okay, so it just, these are ABLE accounts are not income shield accounts, they protect resources. So the income is still going to be counted as income, even though it's going to be likely contributed to an ABLE account. So unfortunate circumstances may happen sometimes, and if the account holder passes away, these are some things you have to take into consideration. The number one is the account will pass to the account holder's estate. So the estate administrator would notify Stable or notify your ABLE program and will take over account access. There are no designated transfers upon death, and so you cannot put it in your will who you want your ABLE funds to go to. I can tell you there's only one permissible transfer, and that is to a sibling with a disability. That's the only permissible transfer upon death. Other than that, the account would go through the normal probate process. So it's going to be up to the judicial officer how to dividend the funds in that particular account if there's no sibling with a disability. If the beneficiary was on Medicaid, for the state of Arizona, there is a Medicaid payback. I want to say there's some, or maybe one or two states out there with ABLE programs where there is not a Medicaid payback, but for Arizona, it is a Medicaid payback. But Medicaid does not get the first bite at the apple. The estate can first pay for outstanding bills and qualified disability expenses. It can also pay for funeral and burial expenses, or it can pay for or deduct Medicaid buy-in premiums that particular individual paid. So, if there's a Medicaid payback, Medicaid here in Arizona will file a claim. Hey, we actually paid for, an expense why that particular individual had an ABLE account and we need money back for XYZ. They have to wait until other things can be paid as listed here. I do want to say that Medicaid payback is only from the date the account was open. So for example, if unfortunate circumstances happen and a beneficiary passes away with an ABLE account and they actually had a surgery years ago prior to them opening up an ABLE account, Medicaid cannot file a claim saying, hey, we need money back from that surgery that we paid for, because that was prior to that individual having an ABLE account. So Medicaid payback is only from the date the account was open. Money in a stable account, AZ-ABLE account, or ABLE account period, is better protected from Medicaid payback than money in any other bank accounts, because basically they have to wait. They have to wait until the administrator pays for other things. They don't get the first bite at the apple, basically. But with other bank accounts, it doesn't usually work that way. They file a claim and they get their money back as soon as possible. So account costs. So for AZ-ABLE, the monthly maintenance fee is $3.50, which equates to $42 annually. And the asset-based fees is between 0.19% and 0.33%. And so that is in reference to someone, invested in the market and they're gaining interest on that particular stock or bond, but you're going to have to subtract an asset-based fee, but somewhere between 0.19, 0.33%, and that will give the individual actually the total of their interest on that particular stock or bond. And this ranges different across all different ABLE accounts. Typically I typically tell people to go to Ohio Stable because there's a national program and they are partnered with us. But I also tell people to visit the ABLE National Resource Center, which is ablenrc.org. And they can go on there, learn about ABLE, they can compare and contrast various ABLE programs across the nation to decide which one would be best for them and for their family. So AZ, ABLE, and Special Needs Trust. And once again, this coincides with basically any ABLE program and Special Needs Trust. So if an individual has an ABLE account and a Special Needs Trust, we typically, I get that question, can someone have both? Definitely, of course. There's, it's not against the law or anything. It's actually great tools that can be used together. So we typically say they're complementary tools that can be used together. However, there are unique stable account benefits, cost-effective, broader spending power. I'll talk about that in a minute. Easy account access. So, these accounts are online accounts. So you can go, we know the internet is 24/7. So you can log onto your account at any time. There are no federal or state income tax on earnings. There are no separate tax returns to file, and it can be established, administered, and owned by the individual with a disability. So backing it up a little bit, if we say broader spending power, what we're talking about is, for instance, I have an AZ ABLE account, and a Special Needs Trust. I can't necessarily take money out of my ABLE account and put it to, say like I'm paying for rent. Let's go back, or mortgage. I'm going back to that example. I can actually take money out of my Special Needs Trust and move that money into my ABLE account to pay for my rent. I can't necessarily do that with my Special Needs Trust because there's, things and hoops and loops that people have to go through. But that is just one way that they can complement each other and be used together. So as we know, we're in a pandemic, unfortunately, right now. And so I want to just have a quick discussion about COVID-19 and stimulus checks and ABLE accounts. So as we know, there's been 2 stimulus checks that have been administered to us, and it's looking like we're going to get a third one. So I just want to make people understand that with stimulus funds, they do not count as resources for means tested benefits for a 12-month period following the receipt of the funds. So if I have an ABLE account and I receive a stimulus check and I decide not to put it in my ABLE account, I have 12 months basically to spend that money before it's counted as a resource. However, if I do transfer my stimulus money to my ABLE account, it's not going to be counted as a resource ever. I don't have to spend it within a year. I can spend it basically whenever I want to spend it. Additionally, stimulus funds do not count as income and will not affect an individual's need-based financial aid, such as Medicaid and SSI, once the funds are deposited into an ABLE, not just an AZ ABLE account, a stable account, but an ABLE account. So it's not considered income, and once you put it into your ABLE account, it's protected from being counted as a resource. And this is going to go if it's looking like dependents, adult dependents, which I think is wonderful. It's looking like they're going to be able to receive stimulus funds too. So this is definitely something to think about, because both of these are going to apply to the next third stimulus check. So helpful resources, please visit our website, Arizona's website is az-able.com. Stable account website is stableaccount.com. There's the email right there, team@stableaccount.com. And I just want to back it up. I meant to mention, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. All these beautiful faces that you see on our screen, they're actually Arizonans. We partner with several disability organizations across Arizona, and they sent in pictures to basically be featured in our marketing materials, such as our PowerPoint. So that's just a wonderful thing that I like to point out. Another thing is that if you call Stable, you don't have to worry about, pressing 1, pressing 2 or anything, and you're just pressing 0, like 0, 0, 0. I just want to speak to a live person. You don't have to worry about that. Someone picks up right away, answers your question, and if you email them, typically they get back to you within 24 hours. So you don't have to worry about that. And then for myself, general information, how to reach me, whether you have, questions, presentation, inquiries, definitely you can reach me at az-able@azdes.gov. I would also like to say that this PowerPoint or similar PowerPoint is on our website. So if you wasn't able to catch everything, and this is also being recorded, you can definitely go back. If you have questions at a later time that you may forget to ask, at this time, question and answer is coming up. You definitely can email me at az-able@azdes.gov to get in touch with me. So I think we're going to go ahead and see if we can start some questions. I'm just going to stop sharing and go back to my video. So we have any questions out there?
We do.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, and thank you, Brittany, for your presentation. So a few questions, and if you have more questions, please put them in the chat and I will read them out loud. This is from Shannon Rivas. If a person who has autism or other type of disability who wants to purchase a house, can he or she use the money from his or her ABLE account to do this?
Definitely, that's what it's for. Of course, housing expenditures, that's one of the most, that's the people, usually typically use their ABLE accounts for if they want to save up to buy a house, or if they need to just, spend money for typical housing expenditures, whether it's paying their mortgage, their rent, their utilities, cable, etc. So definitely.
The next question from Masa Nooni. What is the youngest age you can be to open an ABLE account? For an example, can a 3-year-old have an ABLE account established?
Yes. And so whereas the 3-year-old, of course, cannot administer the account, him or herself, their parent, their guardian, or the individual with the power of attorney can administer the account for them, and that account would be in that 3-year-old's name. Yes.
Okay. And we have okay. Is there an age limit for use of ABLE funds? Can a person use them at any age?
A person, if it's that person can use, or we typically say the beneficiary, in which the person with a disability, the person in which the account name is in, they can use their funds however, whenever they want to. So say, like, I'm gonna go back to the example with that 3-year-old. If a parent is using that account to purchase, pull-ups for that 3-year-old, they're doing some potty training, they can purchase, use their ABLE funds to purchase that. So yes, definitely, it doesn't matter.
Okay. How about a person with Alzheimer's?
So Alzheimer's, I'm not sure whether or not that is listed under Social Security Administration's list of compassionate allowances and conditions, or, once again, it goes back into that onset of disability. So typically people don't get Alzheimer's prior to the age of 26. I'm not saying that it's not likely, and there's not cases out there where that hasn't happened. So people just have to remember that there's some eligibility requirements to get these accounts. So you have to have a development of a disability prior to the age of 26, and then you have to meet one of those three: receiving SSI or SSDI, have a condition listed under SSA's Blue Book or list of compassionate allowances conditions, or self-certify where a doctor have to sign off on it. So I did that. Typically Alzheimer's, so it just depends whether or not that person meets that criteria to even have an ABLE account.
Okay, thank you. This is from Lisa Lee. What can a person do if they've had a disability all their life, but wasn't officially documented until after 26?
So if they had it, so remember that it's based on when the disability was developed, not when they were diagnosed. So if they had a disability all their life, that they meet that main criteria of prior to having an onset of disability prior to the age of 26. So yes, they would meet that eligibility requirement.
Okay. If the person becomes deceased and has remaining ABLE funds, is it considered a part of their estate? Is it taxed differently then?
It is considered a part of the estate. I can't speak on it being taxed or not. It depends on what state you're in and the tax laws and things like that. So I can't speak on that. But it does become part of that individual's estate, and it's going to be up to the probate judicial officer how to dividend those funds.
This is from America Ross. Can the money from an ABLE account be used to purchase a car, and will it be counted against them?
It can be used to purchase a car. It could be used to purchase a bike. No, those things like that, typical day-to-day things like that are considered qualified disability expenses. The only thing people have to worry about are where they can possibly get in trouble if they spend money on those 5 things that I talked about. So, tobacco, alcohol, adult mature entertainment, gambling, and just cash and just gifting money to someone. Anything else, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. From Jessica, can a child who has disabilities and is in the foster care system open an account or have their foster parents open an account for them?
Yes, if they're listed as their guardian or power of attorney, they can definitely open an account for them. If anything changes like that, whether they become a ward of the state or anything like that, yeah, you can definitely open an account for them. And anything change, depending on what ABLE program you sign up with, you would just update that ABLE program of who's now the administrator of the account.
Okay, and thank you, John, for posting information in the chat. Do we have any more questions? Oh, here we go. Here's another one from Lynette. What information is needed to open an account? What proof is needed?
So typically, other than the things that I mentioned regarding the self-certify, when someone's opening an account, they're certifying that everything they're saying is true and accurate to the best of their knowledge. Kind of like when we filed our taxes, IRS don't ask for anything right away. We're certifying that everything we put in is true and accurate to the best of our knowledge. So typically when you do open an account, you're going to have to send in, it has going to have to be verified. So ID verified, address, banking information, and things like that. And then if you're self-certifying, like I said, you're going to have to maybe, enter your physician's name, address, and the date in which you were diagnosed. You don't have to send in a written diagnosis, but this is basically on a honesty, level, whereas you're certifying that everything you're saying is true and accurate. So, but other than that, proof-wise, ID, just a typical ID, social security number. You have to enter social security number and address and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Now's your time and your opportunity to ask Brittany.
And once again, if you have a question come upon you at a later time, just reach me at az-able@azdes.gov. I check my email every day, all day. So yeah, you can just reach me that way.
Great. And we will have a copy of this presentation and the PowerPoint after the conference on our website at Arizona Center for Disability Law, and an email will go out to all attendees about it. So you can not only go through this one, but see previous ones. This one, here's another question from Karen. Will there be a fear will there be a fear we should have regarding these rules changing in the future? Brittany, thank you for sharing your expertise.
Of these rules change in the future? No, actually, the rules are getting more broad. The IRS just came out with new federal ABLE legislations. Actually, they're giving ABLE programs 2 years to basically update their programs to abide by these new rules and regulations. And so it's actually helping. I can just give you an example. So right now, typically only authorized legal representatives are able to administer an account for an individual. So that's parent, guardian, or someone with power of attorney. But one of the new federal regulations is that now a rep payee can actually, that's hired by or under SSA, Social Security Administration, can actually administer an account for an individual. And that's something that we've been fighting for the past 5 to 6 years. So when changing, is for the better, not to worry or fear or anything like that.
Great. We do have another question. You mentioned the ABLE Age Adjustment Act. What would the new age limit be?
A new age limit, so the development, so what happened would go from an onset of disability prior to the age of 26 to moving it basically up to prior to the age of 46. So now our veterans will be able, for example, to take advantage of these accounts. Research, we've done some numbers, and it's looking like about 6 to 7 million people will become more eligible. So from 26 to 46.
Okay, thank you. And yes, the captions and transcripts will be available with the recordings once we get this up on our website. All right, we still have a few more minutes. Are there any other questions? We'll wait a second here, see if anybody's got anything else. And Brittany, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Let me see. Definitely, we've been seeing an increase with account openings because a lot of people have been receiving stimulus funds and they using that money to open up their accounts. So definitely look into that. Once again, check out, even though you don't live in Arizona, it doesn't matter. There are about 44 programs across the nation. So go on ablenrc.org and just compare and contrast to see which ABLE program would be best for you. I would say for Arizona residents, most Arizonans here have an ABLE account because they receive some type of whether lower cost or fees and things like that. And then also the fees that you saw on here, even if you don't live here, Ohio Stable is a national program. So please go on Ohio Stable's website or give them a call if you have any questions or concerns, and they'll certainly help you. And we're the largest, so Ohio Stable partnered with Arizona and the other 10 states across the nation. We are the largest ABLE program in the country. We have the most accounts, and we also have the most assets under management. So we're basically #1 in the country right now. And we've been #1 since, I know for sure, since AZ ABLE was launched back in 2018. So we've been #1 for quite some time.
Thank you. And we do have 2 more questions. Will a birth certificate count as ID? Example, the 3-year-old.
Yeah, that can count as ID. Yes, definitely. yeah, typically they if it's, you know, have a minor like that, they're going to need proof of how old the individual is. Not saying that you may or may not have to send it in, or at least a copy of it in, just depending on what program you sign up with. For us, I don't think you have to send it in. You're just certifying, you know, the date, the age, the social security number of your minor or family member, loved one that you're actually administering an account for.
Okay, thank you. And last question here. What do you do if you want to end an ABLE account and there is a penalty? And is there a penalty?
No, there's not a penalty to close an account or anything like that. Definitely not. Like I said, you can only have one account at a time. So sometimes we may have someone who had an account in Tennessee and they move here to Arizona and they decide they want to, you know, close their account in Tennessee and open one in Arizona. We do provide that, or the IRS do provide that transition time. So at some point you may have two accounts open, but during that transition time, you're just closing one account and open up another. Or if you're just close account period, there's no fee or penalty, but please keep in mind that now that money that was in that ABLE account can be counted as a resource. The main thing about these ABLE accounts is it protects people with individuals with disabilities. It protects their resources. As we know, typically with benefit agencies, they have a, you know, income threshold and they have a resource threshold. Money in an ABLE account is protected. So that's just one thing that you need to think about when you're thinking about closing up your account.
Okay, we do have another question from Sky. Any requirements to requalify at certain windows of time or only need to qualify once?
You only need to qualify once. However, if you did CERF certification and you know, say like now you're no longer because remember this is for long-term disability. So your disability is lasting or is expected to last for at least a year. So in those cases, you may have to recertify that you still have the disability depending on what disability you have.
Okay. I think that might be, unless there's any other questions. We still have some time. Okay, well, I think we're actually going to be wrapping up a little bit early. It seems. Brittany, thank you so much. We really appreciated your time this morning and your expertise. Thank you, John. To register for upcoming sessions, we've got one on Wednesday at 10 a.m. I'm sorry, Thursday at 10 a.m., the 25th. Ready to protest techniques and strategies for ensuring an inclusive environment and accessibility for people with disabilities and social justice activities. Please fill out our survey about today's session and let us know what you thought. And again, thank you to all our sponsors today. Thank you to Marissa, our captioner, and our ASL interpreters, Crystal and Audrey. You ladies are awesome. Thank you so much. And if there's anything else, you also may, for any other questions concerning the conference or a copy of this presentation or past presentations, you may email me at nlunarose@azdisabilitylaw.org. If there's, one more question before we wrap up. Okay, just we'll grab this one. If you're transferring funds from one account to another, established one, shouldn't it remain protected?
You're saying if you're transferring ABLE accounts, we're talking about transferring ABLE accounts, yes, it's going to be protected. If you're transferring money, a regular checking or savings account to an ABLE account is protected. Yeah, it doesn't matter as long as there's money in your account and it's not closed or anything is active. Then yeah, it's protected, definitely.
Great, thank you. And we also have our closing session on Friday at 10 with U.S. Commissioner Thomas Hicks on voting. So we hope to see you in our last two sessions. And if there's anything else, I wish everybody a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.